online lesson from Wayne at wdglc.com.
Hey there everybody, it's Wayne D again, and here we are at the website. Thanks for coming. We're looking at Sebum 1, otherwise known as Mike Maves of Secret in the Dirt. So if you're a internet aficionado and you like to watch golf, you probably have tuned in on some of Sebum 1's videos. It's kind of
Let's talk about a little bit about you and how you got started in golf. And I mean, I've read the book, but just for the record, you started playing at a young age, right? Your dad was a member of the club or something.
No, my dad wasn't a member of the club. He didn't play a lot of golf. He never played until he was an adult. I don't think he's ever been a member of the club. But we had a neighbor, Mr. Deaton, Paul Deaton. It's funny, I haven't even mentioned him before, but he was really into golf, and he took me and my father, and we went over to this par 3 course, Oak Hall. It was called Niagara Falls. And that's the first time I ever played golf. I would have been probably about 9, and I didn't play again really for a couple of years, but then I used to play at that little par 3 at Oak Hall when I was, 12, 13. And eventually I got, my dad was great. I mean, he thought I couldn't get in much trouble on a golf course, and I could ride my bike to the Niagara Parks Commission Whirlpool golf course. And so I kept a bag there, and as a junior, you could join there. You get a season's pass for $164. So for $164, I sort of kept out of trouble at the Niagara Parks Commission golf course every summer. So that was me playing as a teenager. But it was just a lot of fun golf. I played with a lot of really good golfers too, but that was my introduction into golf and learning the game and so on. And it was all just fun golf. I didn't compete until I got out of college. Never even knew that, because it wasn't like a private club where you have, signs up all over the place for tournaments you can go into as a junior. I didn't even know about any of that, really. So we just played fun. I played a lot of golf with tourists, It's in Niagara Falls. Actually, it was kind of fun because the juniors, what would happen, we'd go, and the tee-off times wouldn't start until, 6:30 or 7 o'clock, depending on the time of year or whatever. But there were about between 12 and 16 juniors that had the same kind of season pass that I had. And the starter would send us all out before the tee times would go off, because the starter knew that we could all play 18 holes well under 3 hours. We'd just burn, just go out there, and we all played even when we were 14. We could all shoot in the 80s or 70s, depending on who it was and whatnot. So we'd play that course, and then when we'd finish, we'd get in, and they would pair the juniors off, and we could go out again, but they'd break us all up, and they'd throw us in with tourists who weren't familiar with the golf course. So, the first round we played with our buddies, and then we'd go play another 18, and we would be paired with, somebody flew in from Spain and visiting Niagara Falls, wanted to play golf, all kinds of stuff like that, and that's how we wound up playing a lot of golf. Yeah. It was fun.
And at some point, you started. You said after college, you started playing competitively. What drove you to that point?
Well, I got out of school I graduated from university in 1990, and I just got the golf bug again. I stopped playing pretty much. I played a little bit in the summers, but when I was in college, I worked for a roads crew to make money to go to college, go to university, and I did play some golf, but it was tough because one day I'd be shoveling asphalt, the next day I'd be running a jackhammer, whatever would be going on, you have no idea whether you were going to hit it half decent or, hit it sideways, because what you'd be doing in the day, So I played some golf and all that. But after that, I got, so I had some free time after my work day, and I had graduated with a history degree, and I was in my folks' insurance business, and I was still keen on history, and so I started kind of just looking at golf history, just for fun. And at the same time, I started thinking about really getting into the mechanics of hitting golf balls, just for the fun of it. So I'd just go to, there's a driving range, Brock Golfland, and I used to go there, and I'd hit golf ball after golf ball. I had some friends that hit there too. They'd hit as many golf balls as I did. But you know what? They were good to me there. After I'd paid for about 4 buckets, they'd give me the rest for free. Just to watch me suffer. But I enjoyed it. It was fun, and so I beat a lot of golf balls, and all while I was beating the golf balls, I was reconciling what I was doing with what I was reading about these great players, whether it's Varden or Hogan or Jimmy DeMeritt or Sam Snead or Walter Hagen, Henry Cotton, all the stuff. I just wanted to know what all these guys were, because in my mind it was interesting, because they're all describing the same thing, the golf swing, with such different approaches and different words and everything else, and I thought that was pretty intriguing, and so I just that was my friends didn't know that I was interested in the golf history books or whatever. They just thought I was just a range rat beating balls. I didn't really do anything but talk about the golf balls I was hitting and what we were doing. I wasn't laying a history trip on anybody, Yeah.
So at some point you decided, how did you get so in depth into this analysis of Ben Hogan and his 5 lessons? What drove you to that point? What got you there?
Well, in Canada, George Knudsen was the big deal, and so all of the teachers at that time in Canada were influenced heavily by George Knudsen, and his teachings were part of the CPGA teaching manual. So as I got better, I was scratch or near scratch amateur, so I would teach or talk to a lot of teachers, guys that were, hit balls with me that were assistant pros here and there, or that were head pros and all that. And of course, they're all talking about the manual that they're learning from, which is this CPGA teaching manual at the time, and that was all George Knudsen. So I got into George Knudsen, and so his book, which was The Natural Golf Swing.
Natural Golf Swing, yes.
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with natural golf.
Natural golf, absolutely not, yeah.
Nothing. But anyway, so Knudsen's book was fantastic. And actually, when you look inside and you read Knudsen's book, you'll see there's actually a pencil drawing in there of Hogan. There's not a lot of people that are drawn in there, but there is a pencil drawing of Hogan in there. And so that was the first time I ever really, other than seeing good players play Hogan clubs, that was the first time I really thought, well, maybe I'm going to check out this Hogan guy. And so I bought Power Golf and 5 Lessons and the whole thing, and then I got into the whole Hogan trip, where you read about his victories, his accidents, and the whole aura.
Mystique,
the whole Hogan trip. So I went down that whole thing, and I think, I'm not alone. Thousands and thousands of people have probably millions really have read 5 Lessons, and then gone on to try and delve a little deeper into all things Ben Hogan, So I don't care who you are, eventually all roads lead to Ben Hogan. You know, you're going to go and you're going to find out about Ben Hogan, whether you want to or not. It's going to come up, and you're going to have to address it. So that's the way it goes, no matter what.
And that's actually how it is. I mean, if you look at all these different teaching methodologies, whether it's one played, two played, golfing machine, Jimmy Ballard, this guy, they all take Hogan as their model. They try to indicate that whatever they're teaching, that's what Hogan did. So yes, there's no doubt that all roads will lead to Ben Hogan.
Right.
Okay, let me run a couple of players by you. You tell me what you think about them. What are your thoughts on these players? I'm going to give you somebody you're definitely going to be able to talk to me about. That's Moe Norman.
Right, yeah. You want my impressions of him?
Yes.
In terms of what he did as a golfer, or just as a person, or
In general. I mean, it turns out that I think what we've discovered is that Moe was actually autistic, wasn't he?
Well, you know what? I have very mixed feelings about that, about what he was, and I personally think that autistic card has been a little overplayed when it comes to Moe. I just do. I mean, he had you know, certain things about his personality, and he did repeat words and things like that. But I think if you were to get him in a comfortable position where he wasn't, you know, on display, and he wasn't feeling socially threatened with a lot of people around, all of those mannerisms and so on diminished.
It just disappeared, huh?
Yeah, not completely, but they really did settle down. And so I think that with Moe, you know, I just heard recently. I'm gonna tap away on the computer here because I just saw on YouTube they were replaying an interview with him, a radio interview with him from the early '60s, and you know, he's. I'm not saying that he's, you know, talking like, you know, some super articulate dude, but he sure didn't sound anything like Rain Man. You know, he was very together.
Yes, I heard that. It was pretty coherent, in fact. He just,
absolutely. And
the guy was saying he was like a clown, and he said, I don't take it seriously. People are here to have fun,
exactly.
etc.
Now, so you've heard the same thing that I've heard. Now, I'm just telling you that if you had him in a situation where he was
comfortable,
the conversation would be more like that. And I think some of those mannerisms built over time, and I don't know that you know, I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist or anything, but I don't know that the development of those traits over time is something that spells out autism. I think it may be some other thing. I mean,
some kind of defense mechanism or something like that. Sure.
Sure. I mean, some people, you know, get nervous and they stutter. There's who knows, but the thing is that I have, in my experience, my encounters with him were all very chance encounters, you know. But having played with him once, and having had a small connection with him when we played, I was able to approach him at other times. But I at least was around him enough to see him in a more relaxed sort of state. And I think so. I don't know. It would be an interesting study. But I found him actually. If you took the time and were around him enough, he was really far less eccentric than then people make the
Made
whole
him out
thing.
to be shit.
Yeah, yeah. You know, he
What about
shatter the myth, but yeah.
well, it just adds more to his aura. But what about Moe as a ball striker? I mean, if you've played with him, you've actually watched him, you've actually heard it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and I think the people that got to see him earlier than me would have seen something even more incredible, because of course it was in the 90s and he would have been in his 60s when I first really was exposed to him. And so if you go back further, if you go into the 70s and 80s and so on, you'd get closer to the purest version of Moe Norman that was there. But I mean, he did what he wanted with a golf ball. That's you know, it's anyone who was around to see one of his clinics will just tell you that he could do whatever he wanted. If he could just bore you to death with string straight golf shots in precisely the direction he wanted to hit them. And it was just, he had his own, I would talk about the hole in the sky. He owned his own hole in the sky. He knew if he put the ball through at a certain elevation, that it was going to go string straight with whatever club he had in his hand. So he just swung to those holes, and his method. There's a lot of talk about his method and everything else. And one of the things that I hate to boil it down to sort of simple math here, but you know, once you've hit 10,000 golf shots, you start to figure it out. And,
I agree.
And so he hit the shots, and he continued to hit the shots, 600, 800 golf balls a day, and he had that method just absolutely nailed down. And you know, I don't know that it was necessarily the most efficient swing in the world. It may very well have been, but I do know that he hit it with an extremely strong and powerful flight, and he could bend it in either direction, and not only bend it in either direction, but hit the target while he bent it in whatever direction he wanted. So, I mean, that's ball striking, right? And I haven't seen anything really better than that, either on a driving range or in you know, watching people play rounds of golf or whatever. It's just it was truly great.
So what you are? I like this thought about owning this hole in the sky. So you're correlating trajectory with accuracy. Just something that Hogan talked a lot about, you know.
Well, I think that's. I mean, I've always thought, well, why would he name the shaft and the club's apex? That's what you're controlling. You're controlling the where that golf ball reaches the top of its flight, and it starts to come down. And if it reaches a very, very high apex point, it will tend to fall to the right. If it reaches a lower apex point, it'll tend to fall to the left. So that's one of the simple ways that guys will manage their ball flights. Shot shape is simply, you know, in one of those YouTube videos, I said, geez, there's no such thing as a high duck hook. You know, I'm going to explain to you the mechanics of the you come over it enough, and eventually you're going to turn it straight into the ground, right? And if you go the other way and you have it open, you're adding loft, right? You're adding loft as you open it. Well, you're adding loft, and you're also going to be creating a flight that has some cut spin on it. So finding out where this, you know, you've got your target on the ground, and then you've got your target, your intermediate target, say, for Moe wouldn't have been an intermediate target on the ground. Like, say, Nicholas would have put a tee down, and then he would have lined it up with a blade of grass or a leaf to get his nearby intermediate target on the ground. Most time was spent looking at the target out there in the golf course, and then looking up at the place that he wanted, that hole in the sky that he wanted to fill. And he could be sure that if he whipped that golf ball through that hole, that he was certain that it was going to finish at the target, because he knew what hitting it through different elevations was going to do to the ball flight. So controlling trajectory, and even Hogan, I think Venturi said that Hogan said that the first thing you have to control is trajectory. Once you've got control of trajectory, you've kind of got control of everything, and it's not easy because there's lots of variables, right?
Of course.
Trajectory is your grip pressure affects your trajectory. All kinds of things affect it. But anyway, that
was a famous commercial in the late '80s for the Hogan Company, where only through trajectory could you control, or accuracy could you achieve trajectory, or vice versa. It was one of his point of sales, the Hogan Company.
Yeah, well, it's true.
I agree.
Thought it was like a sales thing, but it's just a fact. It's physical.
No, it's what Hogan said himself. He said, this is the way I control,
Yeah.
Okay, what about Mike Weir? You watched him at all?
Yeah, I've watched him play. I've seen him. I've never met Mike Weir. I've watched him hit golf balls. I watched him hit golf balls at the Canadian Open. I can remember watching him. I think he was playing in the Porter Cup when he was an amateur. So I can remember. And I have actually several friends that are sort of well known and affiliated with Mike, but he and I don't know each other. But I'll tell you what I've admired about him is his work ethic, because I remember when he was traveling all over the world trying to make it on mini tours and things like that. I was in Niagara Falls, and Bell, the phone company in Canada, was behind him, and Bob LaBelle, who's from Niagara Falls, he was behind Mike Weir and trying to help him, because I think that they saw the kind of drive that he had. So, what I can say, and from what I know, is that that's a guy who's earned it, because he didn't roll out of bed. He didn't roll out of bed one day, a major championship winner. He worked at it, and he earned it.
What about Lee Trevino?
The best I've ever seen up close hitting a golf ball. I saw him in the same set of circumstances that I'd seen Moe. I saw him do that same golf course where I was a member when I was a junior, Whirlpool. He did a clinic there off the first tee, and it was mesmerizing. It was absolutely incredible. And you talk about a guy who compressed the crap out of a golf ball, and that was Lee Trevino. Unbelievable control, and he was smashing it, but it was sort of an effortless kind of power that he had. Very controlled swing, and it looks he's looping it all over the place, outside the line and up and around and back. That big sweeping figure eight, but he put it on the golf ball so solidly. You could just hear it. It's same with Moe. That's the thing is the guy who really hits it on the button. You can tell by the sound of impact, and even you don't hear it so much anymore because the golf balls are different. But when a guy's zipping, baladas out there, you'd hear that.
You hear that nice click.
Yeah, you'd hear that thud, and then you'd hear the fizz. It's just
yes, it takes off.
Unbelievable. But he was great. And more importantly, not only did he give a great clinic and a great demonstration of hitting golf balls, but he was truly a pleasure to watch because of his the way he spoke with people and his whole demeanor. It was great. It was great to see him.
Well, that brings me to another point. What about this notion about owning your golf swing?
Yeah.
Well, these guys, Norman, Hogan, Trevino, perhaps, these are guys that knew how the ins and outs of their golf swing.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you'd find today. You don't see that type of player anymore. The guy who kind of figured it out, the guy who figures it out for themselves and knows when it's wrong, how to fix it.
There's I've sort of my look at it is that if you're going to learn golf, you start, and everybody starts with a cut shot, right? You start with a slice. That's just with your natural instinct is to go at the golf ball a certain way, right? So you kind of throw that right shoulder at it, and you're over the top, and you're coming out the in and all that. And so everybody kind of starts the same way with their natural instincts of how they think they should hit a golf ball. So you start with a slice. And, of course, if you go to Hogan and he power golf, he said, you take every natural instinct that you have, everything you think you should do to hit a golf ball properly and do the opposite. You'll come pretty darn close to a perfect golf swing. So there's the counterintuitive part of learning it that people have to sort of get. But what happens is you start with your fade, your slice. It goes to a fade. Eventually, you learn to hit it straight if you keep at it long enough. Most people never keep at it long enough, or hit enough golf balls, or read enough books, or figure out different things, or tinker enough. But eventually, you'll get to hitting it straight. And those same exercises of hitting the golf ball and start to develop certain strengths and tendencies, and sooner or later your straight shot will turn into a draw. And now you're in, you're sitting there and you're going, oh my God, I'm hitting a draw. You feel like you're king of the world.
Exactly.
Draw. But sooner or later your draw turns into a snap hook. It happens to everybody. so your moment of your dreams of being on tour disappear rather quickly because those
they wind up in the left woods.
Yeah. So then what happens is you work and you work and you work, and then you have to figure out your way how to get back to the middle. And then what happens is now you've worked the whole thing. You've worked from a slice to a duck hook, and then back to the middle. And then when you start to hit cut shots, when you want to hit draws, well, then you know the little tinkers that you have to do, and so on and so forth. And so I think that what happens is the guys that were self-taught, which was more the norm the further back in time you go, they had to work through all of those things alone, or they had to work through those things themselves and figure those things out themselves. And I think that just the act of going through all of that puts them in a greater position to fix themselves if they have little things that are going wrong. And so I think that part of it is, okay, so they've developed their action, and Hogan's action was a little bit different than Moe Norman's, but not that much when you get right down to it. And Trevino's action, likewise, there's similarities where these things are. Those three I love because they're driven by the legs, right? Those swings are driven by the pivot, and I've said that before. I don't want to drum that one into the ground, But that's the thing that unites those three, is that those are, rather than swing-driven pivots, those are pivot-driven swings. But those swings were earned on the golf practice tee, working from through the whole gamut, from cut, from slice, straight to hook, duck hook, to back to straight, and so on. And Trevino is a perfect example. All you have to do is look at it and go, okay, here's a guy who must have had the mother of all duck hooks at one time, because what action he finally settled on was an action that simply guaranteed that duck hook simply couldn't happen, you know. So this is, you know, the genius lies in the extremes. And that's Hogan, and that's, you know, and that's Moe Norman. And it's part of it is just the effort and the time and the balls, but part of it is also the act of figuring it out themselves, you know.
Well,
I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I.
Yeah, well, I think yeah, I agree with you, and I think a lot of it has to do also with your background. I mean, these are guys that had it hard. Giving up wasn't part of the equation.
Giving up wasn't part of the equation, and the other thing is too is that they didn't have the means to go running to somebody to give them a quick fix.
They had to figure it out.
They fixed it themselves, and I think that there's a benefit to that. You know, I'm all for people doing all the research that they can, and I'm all for people going to pros for lessons. I think it's great, but there is a part of a golfer's confidence that can only come from their faith in their own ideas about what they're doing, and knowing why something works. And I think those guys took the time and the effort to figure out why their golf swings worked, not just that they worked. But that said, there was a great quote by Hogan. He said, "I don't know why I hit it great. I only know when I'm hitting it great." You know, and so more of that, whatever that is, I want more of it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the trial and error. You know. Again, I was talking to Steve Elkington, and he was fortunate enough to spend some time with Hogan, and Hogan said it to others too. But he said, you know, this is a game of adjustments, constant change in adjustments.